Hi, this is Jeremy Gledhill with Newdon Technologies. This webinar is a continuation of our previous webinar that we did a couple weeks about e-discovery using JusticeWeb. This webinar today is going to be talking about the eView capabilities of JusticeWeb. It should be a fairly quick webinar. There's just a few things that we can show you today that should hopefully turn the gears about how JusticeWeb can be used to get the information out to people that need it. And so the things that we're going to be talking about today is how to customize your JusticeWeb home screen, and we'll do just a little bit of that. How to make reports available publicly and privately, and also talk a little bit more about just downloading Discovery and other documents through JusticeWeb as information for eView purposes. So the first thing I want to show is on JusticeWeb, if you notice here, we have a home page. This JusticeWeb home page is somewhat configurable. If you notice here, we have some canned JusticeWeb text here. It says, "Welcome to JusticeWeb." Has a couple helper text fields here saying how to create an account, what the site is for, etc. And we actually have the option to change this text out for text that we want. And it's using just HTML. So anyone that has any background knowledge of what HTML is, you can create your HTML text and just paste it right into the JusticeWeb system configuration. If you don't know what HTML is, then do a few Google searches for how to create web pages via HTML, and you'll probably get 1,000 results. There's tons and tons of help guides out there. It's very straightforward, so don't feel like if you're going to be the JusticeWeb administrator that you can't change this web page, because you can. It just might take some tinkering. So how do we change that? We go into our JusticeWeb configuration through our administrative tools. Notice we have our different options here. Server configuration is the one that we want to go into. So I'm going to click on server configuration. And towards the bottom, we have 3 different web content fields. We have the home page, the sidebar, and the support contact message. The home page HTML is talking about this area in the middle. So all of this text is coming from that home page HTML. The sidebar is pulling it over here to the right. So notice we have 2 different places here, homepage and sidebar. And notice they're blank. And since they're blank, JusticeWeb will automatically pull the canned text in. The support contact message is a customizable message that users can get when an error happens, or if an error happens, depending on what the user is trying to do. Since JusticeWeb is a website, some people may have unsupported browsers. They may have different things going on with their computer where they might get an error message at some point with JusticeWeb, and you can customize what you want it to say when they get an error message. Contact so-and-so, or give us a call, or give them just a list of, are you using the correct browser? Are you, just whatever help text you want to put in there. So I've actually made a home page and a sidebar HTML page here. So I'm going to come to my home page HTML, and I like to use Notepad++. So if you notice here, I've got a bunch of just HTML text, so I'm actually going to copy all of it. So Control-C. I'm going to come in here to my home page HTML, open up the box here for the text editor, and just paste it in. So I just pasted in my HTML text. I'm going to hit Save. So now it's going to save that text back to my JusticeWeb database. And now that it has saved, I'll come to my website and I'm going to hit refresh. And here we go. So here's the web page that I created, totally back to 1990s when websites were first invented. But just so you can see, I just created some real quick and easy links to logos, put text out there, put some colors out there. I mean, you can make a really simple page if you want that just has some text like our original page, or you can get fun and creative. I'm sure everyone would just love to have an awesome web page like this where you have logos bouncing around. Same thing with the sidebar text. So if I minimize and come to my sidebar here, open this with Notepad++. Welcome to my web page. I made another scrolling awesome web page here, which is, you know, pretty annoying, but also pretty awesome because that's the way the internet used to be, is everything was always just scrolling and flashing. So if I hit refresh now, notice this text has been replaced with my scrolling welcome to our web page. So anything HTML related you can copy and paste in here. Notice it does use the CSS that is already embedded in JusticeWeb, and you can overwrite CSS. If you don't know what I'm talking about with CSS, that is how you can create fonts and different standards to use across your page. So we have some standards such as colors and fonts and things, and you can overwrite those if you want to in your HTML. But notice this one on the right, it just took the same color from the others because of the CSS that is already in there. Now, it is annoying, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete it back out. So I'm going to take this one out, and take this one out, hit save. Now that they're blank, if I come back and hit refresh, now that they're blank, we're back to our standard default, welcome to JusticeWeb, what is JusticeWeb? So it just loads in the HTML by default since those fields are empty. A good website to access if you are curious about how to write HTML would be W3 Schools, and you can just Google that. It is very, very popular and common for learning simple things, and they have some awesome tutorials on there about how to create, and also awesome examples that you can play with on their website, so if you're curious about that. So that's one way, just from an eView perspective. Someone comes to your website and they can see information right away, and you can change that information whenever you want. So if you want to put information right on your main page, if you want to change it once a week or however often you want to change it, showing specific information, it can actually be very simple to do that. The next thing that we have available for eView would be reports. In JustWare, I'm sure you're familiar with our reports that you can see everywhere. So on my main page, I have an active cases report here showing, you know, what cases I'm active on. Any report that you have in JustWare, you can make available through JusticeWeb. And you can make those reports either available publicly or privately. Publicly means you don't need any login to access the report. So if I come to JusticeWeb right here, notice I have a reports button up here at the top. I haven't logged in to JusticeWeb. I can click on the reports button and see which reports I have available. So these are just two random reports that I made available through JusticeWeb. One called Court Calendar, the other one called Event Awesome Report. And I'll show you in JusticeWeb in JustWare, how we modify these reports in JusticeWeb. So if I come into JustWare and I go into my JusticeWeb System Administration, I'm going to go back out to my main System Administration page here. There's a Report Management section. So I'm going to click on Report Management. You can see I have a plethora of reports here. And notice we have report types: public report, private report, and case-specific report. So our public reports are, like I mentioned before, reports that you don't need a login to access. So let's create another one that we can access publicly, just so you can see how easy it is. I'm going to hit the plus here. We give it a description. So the description is what the link is going to be for the users to see. So you can call it whatever you want. Click me for awesome report. You know, whatever description you want to put in there is going to be the link that you click. Now here, you click on the magnifying glass and it gives you a browser so you can see all of your JustWare reports. This is where I always say a big red flag should go up. So I'm holding one here in my hand. So just picture it, I'm waving a big red flag. Not all of your reports should be made available publicly. There may be confidential information on some of these reports. So what I always suggest is when you are going to be making reports available publicly, you might want to use a fine-tooth comb and look at the report and make sure that it is only showing information that you want available publicly, or that the report is written in a way where the user has to provide information specific to themselves, such as, name ID, license number, something where you know that that person is verifying who they are before they are seeing the information. So let's just grab a random report here. I'll grab a system report. We'll just say the advanced calendar. So I notice I just click on it here, click on select. So now this Click Me for Awesome report is linked to the advanced calendar report in JusticeWeb. I say what report type I want. So I'm going to say this is publicly available. And what JusticeWeb server I'm using. So I only have one JusticeWeb server. I'm going to hit save on that. So now we have 3 public reports. If I come back to my JusticeWeb page here and hit refresh, now I have the Click Me for Awesome report option here. So if I click Me for Awesome report, the report it's going to load is that advanced calendar report. So just like you see in JusticeWeb, it comes up with the parameters across the top. You can fill in those parameters and then get the information out of JusticeWeb, just as you would expect in JusticeWeb. And these parameters would be the ones that you'd want to create available for, like I mentioned, if you wanted people to validate who they are. So if you want a person-specific report, you could say, please enter your birthday and, whatever verifying information you want them to put in at the top for them to verify who they are, so that the report will only load information for those specific people. That is public reports. Private reports only show after you've logged in, as well as case-specific reports. So I'm going to sign in here. So we're back to our Yogi the Bear case that we worked on in our previous webinar. So I'm signed in as Mr. Attorney, and since Mr. Attorney is a prosecuting attorney on this case, I can see all these different options. And we talked about this a little bit last time, and we will continue to do webinars in the future discussing more about how payments work, how to create these requests. So we really haven't gone much into how these requests are created, but we did talk about how this discovery is created. So if you're interested in how this discovery was created, go ahead and watch that webinar. Now that I've logged in, we should have access to those public reports. So if I click on reports again, notice we have 4 reports now instead of just 3. So if I come back to my JusticeWeb administration here, notice we have 1 private report, which is this advanced case search report. So I made the advanced case search available privately. So if I come into JusticeWeb, and click on Advanced Case Search, it's going to load the Advanced Case Search just like you're used to in JusticeWeb, and you can then generate things. So I'm going to go ahead and just tell it to view so you can see how it loads those cases. And this, I think, is going to load everything since I didn't specify exactly what I wanted. So it might take a little while here. Alright, so I've got 41 in here. And just like you expect in JusticeWeb, JusticeWeb gives you the option to export, options to print. The report works exactly the same way. These hyperlinks do not work like they do in JusticeWeb. So typically we will take hyperlinks out. Like I mentioned, if you make these reports for JusticeWeb, these hyperlinks won't open JusticeWeb cases or anything like that. Typically in JusticeWeb, it'll open up the case. So that is a private report. So we added 1 more here. The final option, reports-wise, are case-specific reports. So if you notice, I have 2 reports that are case-specific reports. The way you access those reports is by clicking on a case in JusticeWeb. So since I'm logged in, you have to be logged in order to access case-specific reports. If I click on the case, notice it opens up a view for just about this case. I can see case details, so I can see what kind of case it is. I can see all of the requests available for this case. So I can make requests. I can see the downloads that are available for this case, and I can see my download history. So if you want to see if, what your download history has been. And this final tab is reports. So here's our reports. If I click on case summary here, it should load a case summary for this report. So notice I didn't have to type in a case ID at the top. Since it is a case-specific report, it knows to plug in the case ID automatically. So case-specific reports are nice in that it will load up the information automatically from the case. So I can see my case summary here, just like you would in JusticeWeb. And I think that other one didn't show up because it didn't have a case summary option. So I guess I should take that one out. Excuse me, a case ID option. So those are reports. So that's one of the biggest advantages of using JusticeWeb with its eView capability is every report you have available in JustWare, you can make available in JusticeWeb. And you can limit people's access to those specific reports. Let me show you a little bit about how we can limit some of the access besides just private and public. Private, obviously, you need to have a login. Even if you have a login, you can limit down specific access to reports. Notice there's a tab here next to our report management called permissions. If I click on permissions, notice it gives me different options saying what reports I can see. Oh, so actually, case notes is a valid report, but I couldn't see it because I was logged in as a prosecuting attorney. So if you notice here down below, I have to be involved as a police officer in order to see case notes in JusticeWeb. The case summary, though, I can be logged in as anyone. So since I am involved on Yogi the Bear's case as a prosecuting attorney, I could not see the case notes report. So I'm going to add myself as a prosecuting attorney, or actually give permission to prosecuting attorneys. Hit save on that. That should then open up this report section to now see case notes. Alright, that's great. So it was not because case ID wasn't present, but just because I didn't have permissions to see that report. And currently, those are the only, the case-specific reports are the only ones that you can partition based off of involvement. The other ones, the private reports, are available to anyone. You can't currently say these private reports are available based on this involvement type. It could be something that they enhance in the future, but currently case-specific reports are the only ones that you can partition. So that covers reports. Your public reports, your private reports, and your case-specific reports. Anything you've got in your JustWare system reports, you can make available through JusticeWeb very easily. And like I mentioned, you'd probably want to make specific ones for JusticeWeb so you know that the data that is available is only the data you want available, especially with public reports. The last thing I wanted to cover was documents, just briefly, because our previous webinar, we talked about how to make documents available through JusticeWeb. From an eView perspective, you can make any document available to your end users by using that view that we talked about last time. So let me look for Yogi the Bear. Let's type for Yogi. I'm sure there's only one in here. Here we go. So Yogi the Bear, the view is online documents. So not only can you make reports available, but you can also make documents available by coming to your online documents section. So if there's a specific person that you want to have access to a document, you can add that document here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a document available. Let's make our police car video available. And it looks like that's the same thing we did last time. Let's change the display name, and we'll call this, police car video. And then we can authorize whoever we want. Let's make it free, since we made a request for free last time. Let's authorize Mr. Attorney to be able to download that file. So like we talked about in our last webinar, since you can make documents available one by one, or by business rules, or you can create discovery packets, that is also a way to view data through JusticeWeb. So if I hit save here, we should now have a police car video available for me to download. Hit refresh here. And here's my police car video. So notice this one is free, available to download. Easy peasy, another way of sharing information through JusticeWeb. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, pretty straightforward. There's not much more besides what I showed you today in terms of pulling data through JusticeWeb. But just as it's easy, it's also very robust. So I showed you how you can customize your homepage here. Pretty quick and easy. I just copied and pasted some HTML in here. So you can customize that to your heart's content. You can make public reports available publicly. You can make private reports available for people who log in. And you can make case-specific reports available based on involvement type. So if you're involved as a police officer, you see these reports. If you're involved as a prosecuting attorney, you see the other reports. And you can make those very specific and with only information that you want them to see. And then I briefly went over, once again, you can make documents available through JusticeWeb as well. So if there's a specific piece of information you want someone to be able to download, you can make that available through JusticeWeb. I hope that you enjoyed the webinar today and the previous one. We're going to continue to do these webinars to teach you more about JusticeWeb, and then we'll continue to do more webinars about JustWare in the future. Please email us or call us if you have any questions. Thank you and have a great day.